Jackson Powers Johnson versus Cam Heyward. Clash of Titans, the trenches don't lie, and when iron meets iron, sparks fly. Recently, a small storm brewed between Raiders center Jackson Powers Johnson and Steelers legend Cameron Heyward, a classic case of words taken out of context, turned into social media tension. It all began with a simple question on Max Crosby's podcast. What was your welcome to the NFL moment? Powers Johnson didn't hesitate. He named Heyward, not in disrespect, not in arrogance, but in raw honesty. He admitted he got beat, not because Cam dominated him, but because he beat himself. A technical misstep, an overset, the kind of mistake every rookie lineman makes at some point. And yes, Heyward let him hear it afterward. Some choice words, as he put it. But Jackson wasn't bitter. He actually said he hopes Heyward returns for another season. Why? So they can go at it again. Because that's what true competitors want. The rematch. The quote, in full context, felt like admiration laced with accountability. A young lineman recognizing greatness and using it as fuel. But it seems Heyward didn't hear the clip. He read it. And the tone? It didn't sit right with the veteran. On the Not Just Football podcast, Cam responded, I don't remember what I said exactly. I black out in those moments. But that wasn't the only time he got beat. Then he added something curious. We're not even playing the Raiders this year, so now he's talking? And just like that, a throwaway quote became a headline. Here's the truth, though. Powers Johnson held his own. Yeah, Heyward got the sack, a veteran move on a rookie mistake. But across the full game tape, Jackson stood tall against one of the league's most dominant interior defenders. This isn't a feud. It's a snapshot of the NFL's brutal, beautiful reality. Young stars rising, legends refusing to yield, and every snap telling a story. Whether they face off again or not, one thing is clear. Jackson Powers Johnson didn't back down. And in a league that tests your pride on every play, that's what matters most. Breaking down the sack. What really happened between Powers, Johnson, and Heyward. Let's dive into the play that sparked the conversation. The film doesn't lie. On this rep, Jackson Powers Johnson oversets, plain and simple. He's caught leaning too far outside, and Cameron Heyward takes full advantage. A swift move, a strong punch with that right hand, and Heyward bends the corner, turning the mistake into a sack. Aiden O'Connell never had a chance. He holds the ball, takes the hit, and the Steelers come away with a momentum-shifting play. That was Powers Johnson's welcome to the NFL moment. Not because he was outmatched, but because even the best young linemen can get humbled by greatness. But let's clear something up. Jackson never disrespected Heyward. He didn't say Cam wasn't good. He didn't deny the sack. He took ownership of the mistake and even said he hopes Heyward returns for another year, just to run it back. Yet headlines twisted the narrative. On social media, it was made to sound like Powers Johnson dismissed Heyward's talent. That's not what happened. In the podcast, Jackson also talked about his matchups with other elite linemen, including Calais Campbell. It was respectful. It was real. These were learning experiences, not trash talk. The unfortunate part? Now fans are coming after him, saying things like, good thing we drafted Zach Frazier instead, comparing one center to the other like it's already settled. Let's be honest. Frazier is talented. He's already playing at a top 10 level and could crack the top 5 soon. But so is Powers Johnson. Watch the tape, every snap. Jackson plays with violent hands, powerful leverage, and a finish-you-to-the-ground mentality that very few linemen bring. This is a center who doesn't just block. He punishes defenders. And remember, last season, he didn't even play a full year at his natural position. He adjusted mid-season and still dominated. That's rare. Meanwhile, Cameron Heyward is exactly who we thought he was. A future Hall of Famer, a force in the middle, a voice that commands respect on and off the field. This wasn't about disrespect. It was about the collision of eras, the fire of a rising star clashing with the legacy of a legend. And if fate lines them up across from each other again, we'll all be watching. No beef, just football, and a matchup worth waiting for. In the end, it's a little wild that a story built around mutual respect has turned into supposed beef. Because if you actually listen to Jackson Powers Johnson, there's no shot-taking, no arrogance, just honesty. He gave credit to Cameron Heyward, acknowledged his mistake, and expressed his hope to face him again. And that's what he really meant. Not in week 7 or 10, but maybe in the playoffs. If the Raiders and Steelers both take care of business this season, there's a real chance these teams meet again when it matters most. That's when Powers Johnson, this time back at his natural position at center, would square off against one of the best interior defenders of the last decade. That's not trash talk, that's football. That's a competitor circling a date that hasn't even been set yet. Let's just say, if we get Heyward versus Powers Johnson in a postseason battle, that's must-see football. From OTA whispers to Sunday stardom. Don't sleep on Dont'e Thornton. While one story was hijacked by the noise, another is quietly emerging. And this one starts on the practice fields of Raiders OTAs. The early standout? Dont'e Thornton. The former Tennessee wideout entered the league with questions about his route running. Scouts said his college tape showed a limited tree, a few slants, skinny posts, and the occasional go route. Vertical speed? Yes. Nuance? Not so much. But according to Vincent Bonsignor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, that scouting report may already be outdated. Thornton's showing polish. His footwork at the line of scrimmage is cleaner. His routes are sharper, more deliberate. And perhaps most intriguing, the Raiders are giving him reps as a kick returner. That speaks volumes about what they think of his athleticism and upside. No, OTAs aren't everything. There's no contact, no pads, no real pressure. But sometimes, they reveal more than expected. Thornton may still have to prove it when the lights come on. But if these early signs hold, he could carve out a role sooner than anyone anticipated. A vertical threat who's cleaning up the details, that's dangerous, especially in an offense looking to stretch the field and create mismatches. Thornton's not just fighting for a roster spot, he's pushing for a role. And if he keeps stacking days like this, he might just get one. What to watch for in year one. Thornton's path to impact. Here's the truth about wide receivers in the NFL. If you're going to be special, you show signs early. Flashes of explosiveness, consistency, or even just the ability to win your rep, they usually surface within the first year. That's why this early buzz around Dont'e Thornton matters. Because if he's going to be more than just a depth piece, if he's going to become a reliable contributor or even flirt with stardom, we'll likely see glimpses in year one, and we're already seeing those signs. The fact that Thornton looks more polished than expected is encouraging. The fact that he's getting kick return reps adds another layer to his value. It's not just about catching passes, it's about being explosive in multiple phases of the game. And he's not alone. The Raiders also brought in Tommy Mellott, who some believe could help in the return game, likely as a punt returner. Either way, the coaching staff is actively searching for athletes who can flip the field, and that's a positive sign. It's also worth considering the specific role Thornton might play. Every receiver in the NFL has one. You've got your possession guys, your slot threats, your physical, over-the-middle warriors. And then you have your influence runners, the deep-speed players who force safeties to shift, open windows for others, and stretch the defense vertically. That's been Trey Tucker's job for the Raiders. But what if Thornton starts taking on that responsibility? Or better yet, what if he blends that speed with physicality and route versatility? At 6 feet 5 inches, Thornton has the frame to evolve into something more than a decoy. Think a raw version of a Demaryius Thomas, or a young Calvin Johnson before the Polish set in. The early signs are promising, the Polish is improving, and the opportunity? That's there too. Ashton Jeanty. More than just a runner, while all eyes were on route runners and returners, another rookie quietly made his presence felt, this time in the backfield. Ashton Jeanty, the explosive running back out of Boise State, showed off his hands in OTA footage released by the team. It wasn't anything jaw-dropping, just a few clean catches and drills, but sometimes that's enough to raise eyebrows. Because when a running back with elite burst and contact balance starts catching passes cleanly, that's when defenses start having real problems. At Boise State, Jeanty made his name as a violent, elusive runner, a guy who breaks tackles, forces missed angles, and explodes into the second level. But what made players like Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, and Jahmyr Gibbs so dangerous wasn't just their running talent, it was their ability to become true offensive weapons in space. Jeanty might have that kind of upside. And if this early OTA glimpse is any indication, the Raiders may have added a new layer to their offense without anyone realizing it yet. Ashton Jeanty, not just a backfield weapon. What separates good running backs from great ones in today's NFL isn't just what they do between the tackles. it's how dangerous they become in space. That's why Ashton Jeanty could be a game changer for the Raiders. It's not that he's simply fast or explosive. We already knew that from his time at Boise State. It's that he can run routes, catch the football cleanly, and make defenders miss in the open field. And that kind of skill set brings a modern edge to this Raiders offense. Let's be honest, Jeanty was underutilized at Boise State. He didn't get a lot of complex route concepts thrown his way. But when you dig into the film, the flashes are there. Jeanty lined up wide, ran sharp breaks, and created separation. This isn't a guy who needs to be spoon-fed touches between the tackles. This is a weapon, not just a running back. What Jeanty offers reminds me of the way the Detroit Lions use Jahmyr Gibbs. They move him into the slot. They motion him pre-snap. They isolate him against linebackers and toss him screen passes out wide. And when they do run the ball, it's often on stretch plays or off tackle where his burst matters most. That's how you extend a running back's career, not by feeding him 25 carries up the gut, but by managing how, when, and where he takes contact. Defensive linemen pile up damage, corners and safeties, not so much. If the Raiders are smart, and if Chip Kelly, now at the controls of the offense, brings the creativity he's known for, then Jeanty won't just be a gadget guy. He'll be a featured threat who catches 5 passes, gets 8 carries, and touches the ball a dozen times in space. And the beauty of that approach? It opens doors for others. It gives chances to guys like Sincere McCormick, who averaged nearly 5.7 yards per carry in limited action last season. It allows touches for Raheem Mostert, who's still got breakaway speed. It even keeps 2024 draft pick Dylan Laub in the mix. A dynamic rotation centered around Jeanty, but shared among multiple backs, could be the formula this offense needs. PFF's top 10 defensive tackles. Where's the respect for Wilkins? Let's wrap with a quick look at a topic that's caused some stir among RaiderNation. A recent PFF top 10 defensive tackles list by Trevor Sikkema. It's not that the list itself is egregious. It features names like Chris Jones, Dexter, Lawrence Cameron, Heyward, Quinnen Williams, Jalen Carter, Leonard Williams, Derek Brown, DeForest Buckner, Jeffrey Simmons, and rounding out the top 10, Christian Wilkins. The problem isn't that Wilkins is on the list. It's where he is. 10th? Now granted, Wilkins missed part of last season, so it's not outrageous to bump him down a bit. But when healthy, he's been one of the league's most disruptive interior players, a run-stuffing, gap-clogging, motor-running menace who makes life miserable for offensive lines. And while you can argue names at the top, Chris Jones versus Dexter Lawrence, for example, there's no question Wilkins deserves to be discussed closer to that second tier, not just barely making the cut. For what it's worth, I'd personally group the elite in tiers. Tier 1, Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence. Jones for his pass-rushing brilliance. Lawrence for sheer size and dominance. Tier 2, Quinnen Williams, Wilkins, and maybe Derek Brown. These are versatile guys who win in multiple ways and anchor top-tier defensive fronts. But whether it's PFF or another outlet, what matters most isn't how Wilkins ranks in June. It's how he plays in December. Because when the weather turns cold and the playoff race tightens, it's the big men in the trenches who set the tone. And Christian Wilkins is ready to prove, once again, that he belongs in the conversation among the league's best. Christian Wilkins, top 5 in waiting. When it comes to Dexter Lawrence, the film doesn't lie. The man is a problem. He's not just strong. He's unblockable without help. If you try to single block him, he'll forklift your guard into the quarterback's lap. It's why teams double-team him on virtually every snap. But beyond Lawrence and Chris Jones, the rankings of the NFL's elite interior defenders start to get more subjective. And that's where Christian Wilkins deserves more respect. PFF had him at number 10 on their top defensive tackles list. That's too low. Cameron Heyward, still reliable. Quinnen Williams, outstanding. Jalen Carter, a rising star, all worthy of top 5 consideration. But if you're telling me that Leonard Williams, Derek Brown, or even DeForest Buckner are definitively better than Wilkins, I just don't buy it. At full strength, Wilkins is right there with the league's best. His athleticism is rare. He's got the kind of movement skills that define elite defensive tackles like Chris Jones. Agile, explosive, slippery through gaps. And while he may not have the sack totals or highlight reel pass rushes that some of the bigger names boast, Wilkins is already one of the NFL's most complete run defenders. That alone should have him in the conversation. But here's the kicker. He's still ascending. Last year was a tough one. A Jones fracture sidelined him and dimmed the spotlight. But all signs point to Wilkins being healthy now. And for the first time in his career, he won't be the focal point of every protection scheme. Playing next to Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz changes the math. Offenses can't just key on Wilkins anymore. They've got to pick their poison. That's where Wilkins could really start to shine. Less double teams, more one-on-one chances, more freedom to attack. In Miami, he was the centerpiece. In Las Vegas, he becomes a force multiplier. And for all the fans questioning the contract or wondering if he's worth it, keep watching. Because if he stays healthy, Christian Wilkins is going to remind everyone exactly why the Raiders made him one of their defensive cornerstones. The bigger picture. So, where does that leave the Raiders? This roster has questions, no doubt, but it also has hope, and more importantly, pieces. Tyquan Thornton is showing polish, surprising many who wrote him off. Ashton Jeanty could become a dynamic weapon if used correctly. And Christian Wilkins, finally healthy and surrounded by talent, may be poised for the best season of his career. There's a long way to go, but this team has the potential to be better and different than what we've seen in recent years. A playoff push isn't out of reach, especially if the rookies come along quickly and the new faces settle in. Because what makes a team dangerous isn't just talent, it's trajectory. And for the first time in a while, the Raiders may actually be on the rise.